And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bubba and the Bloom, episode 66. We're going to talk about some trades that have already happened and discuss potential trades, or at least players that are rumored to be traded, and the fantasy impacts that could be left behind if they are dealt. Play our weekly game as we have a lead change yet again, and much, much more. You can find me on Twitter at BDintric, the podcast at Bubba Bloom Pod, and my co-host, as always, on Twitter or on X at Ryan BHQ. Ryan Bloomfield, how we doing, my friend?
Professional transition there. Doing great, Bubba. I was telling you before, ran a 5K today for the first time in probably like 10 years. Been a couple months in the making, so I felt all accomplished. And then I turned on and watched Shohei Ohtani pitch a one-hitter and then hit 2 home runs, and then all of a sudden I did not feel as accomplished. What a freaking day for him.
Dude, what a beast. I loved your tweet about it's okay. I think you can take the rest, or whatever. Something about taking the rest of the day off when he left with his cramps.
Yeah, he left with the cramp.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah, deep into the second game after they had it in the bag.
You're good. You throw a complete game shutout and still come out and play. I don't care if he DH. I don't care. He went out and played the second game, hit 2 bombs. Like, that's just ridiculous. But back to your 5K thing, we are turning into like Rates and Barrel 2.0 because I'm doing all the fast food like DVR does, and you're running like Eno. So this is kind of fun over here. Maybe we'll get to get the love there. It'll be good. It'll be good. Just throwing it out there.
I would say maybe we'll do a first pitch 5K, but that's not going to happen. That's not.
Yeah,
we have golf instead.
We have golf. Yes. Would you like to talk about first pitch Arizona? Because I know the fans love it when we talk about it every show.
I mean, there is a so we put out from the HQ account today, our initial speaker and HQ staff list is like 42 names. I would know because I put the graphic together. And I think I got everyone spelled right. Didn't leave anyone out. 42 names so far that are coming and speaking. You can check that out there. There's a early registration deadline, July 31st. So that's Monday is the deadline for the lowest rate for the conference. So, and then we got a couple more signups for golf. So we're up to almost 4 full groups. And so I think we'll get to like 20. I think it'll be, I think that's the number. That's the magic number we're trying to get to. But it's going to be a blast. We're already talking about some fun little additions to the event and branding and that sort of thing. So I cannot wait. And of course, any listeners who are out there, even live in Phoenix, who live in Arizona and aren't going to the conference, you want to play golf with us, let us know.
Come on down. And the bar at the hotel, it's open too. You don't have to be a part of the conference to go to the bar. So come hang out and enjoy the time with the crew. But yeah, it's coming up real quick. They're going to start announcing programming here in the next few weeks. So It'll be here before you know it, which is crazy because our next podcast will be in August already. So this is just flying by, which is great. But since we'll be August, that means trade deadline, which is happening on Tuesday. And the trades are heating up already. Wednesday had a barrage. Thursday's had a few more. So let's recap a few things. Before all the trades, I just wanted to drop one bit of news because it kind of jumped up on me a couple days ago because he's like no rehab. He's just been kind of hitting off a tee and ramping up slowly, it felt like. But apparently Aaron Judge miraculously recovered more than expected the last few days. And he could be back as early as Friday, tomorrow. So just keep that in mind. Keep it on your radar. Obviously, he's back. He's playing. Don't think we did a lot of analysis on this, Ryan, but I wanted to bring it up for the listeners. Like Aaron Judge, literally a week ago when I was talking about him on other shows, he was still like no timetable for his return because he wasn't doing anything. And now he's returning on Friday. So just keep what I'm worried about. And, friend of the show, Draft Cheat, he tweeted this out, and he's a very snarky individual, which I respect. But I think he's actually being honest here. He said Judge is going to come back too early and hurt himself again and be out for the rest of the season. And this was before this news came out. I'm worried he might be right here. Just going to throw that out there. So,
I mean,
we'll see.
I hope not. The Yankees need him. I mean, it's almost like it is kind of weird. They're 8 games back, but the Yankees are 54-48, which is a whole other discussion. That AL East is just stacked. And it's now or never time. So perhaps Judge is rushing back a little bit, but yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say. Like get him in your lineups and RIP to, I don't know,
McKinney.
Billy McKinney experiment
in
a corner outfield. Like
he was actually playing kind of well, which is funny. So yes. We'll see. We'll see. Trades. Let's talk trades. First big bomb that dropped on Wednesday night, Lucas Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez were traded to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim for 2 prospects. One of the top catching prospects in all of baseball, in Cuero, and then another young left-handed reliever that could be in the rotation even sometime next year for the White Sox, but not like an ace by any means. But big move for the Angels, literally hours after saying they're not trading Shohei, we're going for this. And then boom, the first big domino fell in the going for this trip for the Angels. Giolito's an LA guy, so this is big as well. So what's your thoughts on Giolito and even Ronaldo for a bit to LA?
I mean, I guess Ronaldo, like, I think Carlos Estevez is very much locked in as a closer there. So there's no worry there. And Giolito is obviously locked into the rotation. And the Angels, I think, have like 6 or 7 starters now.
There was a great meme of like, I think it was an Ellis Island line where guys are poking their heads around the corner, and they've put Giolito's head on one of the guys going, waiting for my turn in the 7-man rotation. It was pretty good.
I mean, so like 3 of the 7, however, are Patrick Sandoval, who every time I look at his box score, he's got like 85 pitches through 3 2/3. It's just been frustrating. Tyler Anderson, like, maybe he stays in the rotation. Chase Silseth. Silseth's probably the guy who's out.
Oh, he's out for sure.
Probably goes to the bullpen, but like, I don't know. I think they stick there. So I mean, what do you think about were you pro they should trade Ohtani? Because not only did they not trade Ohtani, is they're leaning into this thing. They gave up, 2 of their top 3 prospects to get Giolito. Is this? Do you approve?
I've said it before. They should have traded Ohtani, get as many prospects as you can, rebuild, because I don't see them signing him unless they know more than I do, and they are going to be able to sign him, which I don't think they are. Like, I think it's like a slim chance. So I think they should have traded him, but I'll say this much. Since they're leaning into it and said they're going for it, go for it then, and they're doing that. There's also rumors of a Candelario trade, which we'll talk about later, and that'd be huge for them as well. So if they are going to get the pieces to try to make this work, okay, cool, I'm in. That works. But just know if this fails, which I'll tell you as a Giants fan back in the day, I was furious when they traded for Carlos Beltran with a bunch of prospects, one being Zach Wheeler.
Yeah.
I was furious, and I'm still furious because that didn't pan out, and we've seen how the reverse of that trade has worked out. And I'm not saying Wheeler would be there today, but he could have been a nice part of the dynasty run for the Giants. So the Angels need to make sure this at least get to the playoffs. Like, just think about it this way, Ryan. If they go for it, and we just get even one playoff series with Trout and Ohtani, to me, then it's worth it. I know they need to win it all, but like, that's all we've ever wanted. So
I think so too. I think so too. And I'm glad they the move was not to half-ass it. So like, don't just keep Ohtani and do nothing. Either sell out, which I think is just a tough sell. Like, you have 0% chance of re-signing Ohtani if you do that.
Yeah.
And you're selling, like, they are not going to make the playoffs with Mike Trout next year, even the following year. Like, this kind of is their shot. And so
this is their shot for sure.
All you need to do is get in the postseason. We saw this last year with the Phillies. I think the Phillies were like the 6th seed.
Oh yeah, they were 6th seed. Well, yeah, you get the Angels in.
It's a coin flip.
Now you just need 3 pitchers. You got Ohtani, you have Giolito, and yes, you could say Canning or put a mix of Canning, Sandoval, and whoever else in that third game. Mm-hmm. Now there's a chance. Like, now it gets interesting. It gets interesting, to say the least. So, yeah, I'm glad they're leaning into it. They need to. They need to go get Candy or something. They need to get a couple more players, go all in. The one thing I'll say is Cuero's the 9th-ranked catching prospect in all of baseball. He's like 65th overall prospect. He's very young. He got rushed through. But a great point I heard or read recently is he was expendable because it makes sense. Logan O'Hoppe is going to block him for a long time unless he gets really hurt. So so strike while the iron's hot with this prospect. That made a ton of sense, actually, when you look at that in the grand scheme of things. So like, it looks like they gave up a lot, and in theory they did, but Cuero's never going to get a chance, really, with the Angels anyway. So go get Gio. Go see what's going to happen. It makes sense. I get it.
Yep, just so nervous as an Angels fan right now, though, because like we were saying, if it doesn't happen, it's gonna be.
There's gonna be pitchforks coming from Disney. It's gonna be wild. On the flip side, with these moves, they also they had to make some roster changes. Ben Joyce got to the 60-day IL, and Jared Walsh got DFA'd. Just wanted to throw that out there for a little pour one out for our homie that was a beast a couple years ago and then had Tommy John surgery and ain't ever been the same.
Maybe this will help me not confuse Jared Walsh with Brandon Marsh anymore. Selfishly, because I cannot get those two guys. Like, mental block. I've made that mistake on the show before, so
it happens. I do Logan Webb and Brandon Webb all the time, so it's okay. And I'm a Giants fan, so
I can see why. It's been a while since Brandon Webb's been relevant.
I do it a lot on my late night DFS or the first pitch show, and I'm really tired. And then I'll get a message from somebody in the morning going, "Brandon Webb doesn't play baseball anymore." I'm like, I realize that. Thank you. I'll try doing 3 to 4 podcasts a day. Go see my Twitter. You'll understand.
Exactly.
All right. The Los Angeles Dodgers, the team that wears blue in LA, they made 2 trades so far. They're rumored to get Arenado, and I swear to God, if they pull that off, it's just like, the Cardinals, I hate you all if you do this, but just stop. Amed Rosario coming over to the Dodgers from the Guardians. The Dodgers sent Noah Syndergaard to Cleveland. We'll talk about that in a minute. Amed Rosario. We can actually group this together because they also picked up Enrique Hernandez from Boston for a couple of minor like reliever prospects. Nothing too crazy there. So the Dodgers have added Amed Rosario and Enrique Hernandez. Enrique, obviously, we know, can play the outfield, can play all over the infield, plays everywhere. Amed, shortstop, having one of his worst defensive years of his career. 2 things, and I'll let you have the floor. Miguel Rojas must be really banged up, like really, really banged up, because he plays actually good defense. So that's interesting. And all you Miguel Vargas fans, sorry. That's all I'm going to say. So what do you got?
Yeah, I think it's time to write the book on Vargas for this year. The Dodgers, man, like, I don't know, they're always frustrating from a lineup standpoint, unless you're Mookie Betts or Freddie Freeman or Will Smith. Like, it's just a rolling cast of characters, and that lineup gets even funkier with Amed Rosario. I actually think it's kind of interesting. I thought the initial reaction, and mine included, was like all they got for Rosario was Thor.
Yep.
But we tend to look at these guys through a fantasy lens. And Ahmed Rosario is really not that great from a real life baseball standpoint. You talked about the defense, Bubba, a 306 OBP. He's really only relevant in fantasy because of the steals. And so, like, I think it's already a bad year for Amed Rosario. I think this is a bad move for his fantasy value the rest of the way. I think it's a platoon. Yeah. I think Rosario plays maybe 3 or 4 times a week, definitely against lefties. I don't know how often he plays against right-handed pitching.
Yeah, it's not great at all. This tweet made me laugh. It's partly because it's really makes this look even worse, and partly because I'm a Giants fan, so talking about the Dodgers. But there are 2 qualified players in Major League Baseball this year with an OPS below 680 and a -6 outs above average or worse. The Dodgers acquired both of them in consecutive days. As Amed Rosario and Enrique Hernandez. So that's
Hernandez.
Like, oof. So yeah, Ahmed's going to play every day, pretty much is the way I see it. At least I think he plays every day. We'll see. Like, who does he platoon with at short?
I mean, probably Rojas, I would think, or at least get pinch hit for. Late.
But they're both righties. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, if you want to do the defensive upgrade, sure, okay, I got you there. But the other side of it is weird.
Chris Taylor maybe, but he's a righty too. So I don't know who the hell knows. Like I said, man, this lineup is just freaking.
But that's why I was confused. I was expecting another lefty bat. They keep getting these righty like utility types. I'm like, what are you doing? You already had Chris Taylor. You don't need Enrique. They're the same player to me. They're the same.
All their lefties are outfielders. Peralta, Hayward, and Outman. All their platoon lefties are. That's interesting.
Pretty bonkers. The one other thing I'll mention, because I saw it in my Discord, the bummer part of this is Mookie Betts only needed like 3 more games to gain shortstop eligibility for next year. And that's officially going to be out the window.
That's a good angle. I did not even think about that. Yeah, Mookie's 16 games at short.
Because he has second, he has outfield already. He was so close to shortstop, and then this trade happened because he was playing like once, sometimes twice a week at short. And
he still might. I mean,
he might, because again,
not,
I don't think he will. Yeah, you never know. He could. We'll see. So Dodgers making moves. They may have a big splash coming soon. I mentioned the Arenado thing, and that'll make me very unhappy. And they're rumored to be going for pitching, so they're not done yet. But I will say this much. They want to stay under the luxury tax for Ottavino next year, which is going to make some of these moves difficult for for the Dodgers. So we'll wait and see.
What do you think about this? I think this will be like the ultimate test of how much we put faith into Cleveland. What do you think about Thor in Cleveland? Like, are you even? He's got a 2-step next week. He's going to start on Monday.
Hey, you can take his 2-step for the weekly contest right now. I'll give you both starts.
Multiply them, negatives and negatives. It's just an interesting because, like, from the Cleveland side, why would they? I don't know why they would do this unless they are planning to call up Brian Rocchio, who's one of their top.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Prospects up the middle. Outside of that, like, why? I don't know why you trade for Thor. Yes, you do need a 5th starter with Bieber out and obviously McKenzie out. But is Thor really the guy? I don't know. It was a puzzling move on the Cleveland side.
Yeah, and looking at Amed Rosario, he's a free agent after this year, and so is Thor. So that doesn't really shake anything out there. So yeah, I know they need pitching depth, but is Thor the pitching depth we're looking for? Is the great question. Yeah. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm staying away in fantasy circles to answer your question. That's where I'm at right now. He will start on Monday. You mentioned the 2-step in the books for Thor. Carlos Santana was traded to the Milwaukee Brewers for a 18-year-old shortstop prospect that was signed out of, I believe, the Dominican last season by the Brewers, one of their 2 international signings. Pour one out for our homie Rowdy Tellez. It was all like you said it. We kind of both said it at the same time. Yep. If you're watching on YouTube, yep.
I don't have beers with me right now, but we'll pour out some water. We also don't have a soundboard on this podcast, so
we wing it around here. But this was, to me, more of a Rowdy might be out for longer than we think situation. So we need help now because the Brewers are in the thick of it. They are going for the playoffs. So they need it now. They can't wait and then hope Rowdy comes back. Santana, he's only hitting like 230 or something, but he's hitting with power and he's actually played well over the last month and a half or so. So I think it's a great baseball move for the Milwaukee Brewers.
And Santana, the Mariners did this with Santana last year, acquired him second half for a run. And like from a non-fantasy angle, Santana apparently really made an impact in the clubhouse in Seattle. So I'm guessing that will probably happen again with Milwaukee. You're right. Like Santana, the last month, 6 home runs, hitting 261 with a 350 OBP.
Very serviceable.
That's pretty damn good. He's got 6 steals.
I've been rolling with him in 15-teamers at corner infield on certain weeks.
Yep.
Like on positive weeks, lots of righties on the mound. He's been very serviceable.
You think he plays it all against lefties? I don't, but
they have so much platoon depth in Milwaukee. I don't think so, but I will say he can. I'm not like afraid of Carlos Santana playing against a lefty. They were letting Rowdy play against a lefty for quite some time, so maybe that does come into play there. I still think they'll do some kind of platooning because that's what the Brewers do. They have tons of platoon options outside of their main elite players that we've all talked about. Because like right now, if you look at the roster, you got Santana at first base, his replacement at first, Abraham Toro played first the other day. That'd probably be the guy. I think you'd stick, or you could put William Contreras over there. But then you just put another lefty behind the plates, Victor Caratini. So pick your poisons there. What I'm trying to pull up real quick on Fangraphs. So this season versus left-handed pitching, he's hitting 239, he's hitting 233 versus righties. So I don't see it too much to worry about there. If you want to go to the power departments with Santana, he actually has 100 WRC plus versus lefties, 99 versus righties. He slugs better versus righties. His ISO is 141 to 190. So a bit more power versus righties, but the overall spectrum, he walks more versus lefties, 14% walk rate, and strikes out 6% less versus lefties.
I was going to say,
so he's not hampering them at all. He's probably helping them to score runs. Like bat him second versus lefties and 4th or 5th versus righties.
The power hasn't been there against lefties, but yeah, each of the last 3 seasons, Carlos Santana has a better OBP, like far better OBP against lefties than.
I don't see them having to platoon him much. Like he's going to be out there and he's going to be like steady Eddie, getting it done. It's a phenomenal baseball move. And honestly, it increases his fantasy appeal because the Pirates are the Pirates. The Brewers will score runs, and they're actually a team that plays in a hitter-friendly ballpark. So I could see this upping, like still maybe 15 only, but there could be a week with the right matchups. 12s are viable with Carlos Santana. So just keep an eye on that. He might be in our weekly game one of these days. Let's think about it that way. You never know. So
I do think like the Brewers, and this will probably I think there will be a couple sellers in the NL Central. I think the Brewers might run away with the Central.
Oh yeah, if the Pirates and once the Cardinals start selling, yeah, it's gone. Because let's be honest, this is no slight on the Reds. The Reds are great. I hope they contend all the way into September. They're so young with bad pitching. Eventually, there's going to be like a week and a half spell of just that's going to take place. That's just what happens in baseball. So
it'll be interesting what the Cubs do. I think that's the team. I think they could catch. The Brewers are 5.5 back. Bats have been good, but yeah, I don't know.
If they sell Stroman, we know what's going to happen after that. Stroman and Hendricks, the whole they start selling that rotation. They don't have depth, so that could be a big boy issue. Last trade we will discuss for now happened right before we started recording. David Robertson of the New York Mets, formerly of the New York Mets, traded to the Miami Marlins for a couple young, like an 18-year-old and a 19-year-old, some young prospects are returning to New York. But we know AJ Puck's been struggling, Ryan. I think this is telling him, hey, we got you. Go back to the 7th and 8th inning.
Yeah, Puck's been really, really bad lately. In his last, 7 outings, he's got games of 2 earned runs, 3 earned runs, 2 earned runs, 1 earned run. I mean, I would think Robertson is definitely the closer against right-handed, like 9th inning, and probably like throughout. They could do some kind of platoon thing with Puck as the lefty, or situational thing. I shouldn't say platoon with relievers, but Puck is a lefty and Robertson is the righty. But like from a skill standpoint, I mean, it's been really bad for Puck. Above and the skills are better than the results for Puck, but it's just been, especially in the bullpen, it's what have you done for me lately? And Puck has not been there. And obviously the Marlins decided to make that move. I think Ottavino for the Mets is probably the clear fill in there. So I think Adam Ottavino and Fab this weekend is going to be pretty highly bid for, because I think he's the clear guy. Skills aren't like fantastic for Ottavino, but he gets so many damn ground balls that that he can make it work for a couple of months. Already has 6 saves, 3.48 ERA, 119 WHIP. The strikeouts and walks are a little shaky, but I think Ottavino can be just fine in the role. And then last but not least was my other takeaway. Yeah, I think the Mets, I think there's more in the tank for the Mets. I think there will be more moves leading up to the deadline, which we'll get to. But I think this is the first domino to fall there.
Yeah, Ottavino's only 13% rostered, no C's right now. So he's widely available. So if you go like Yahoo and everything, he's probably like 6% rostered, if not less. So he will be a hot commodity going forward. And just for fun, Mets Twitter can burn at times when things are going bad. So I just want to throw this out here. Our buddy the Guilds, his instant reactions from this. First, he says the Mets will win the next 6 games, get back in the race, and then lose the wild card on the last game of the season when Ottavino blows a 3-run lead in the 9th. So that was fun. And then
the alternate reality to that is last game of the season, Edwin Diaz comes out to trumpets and locks it down.
Boom. Now that would be
He's
awesome.
Throwing. I think Diaz will be back in September. So
yes, they should trade him. No. And then and then the response he has to the return, because they got another catcher. They only have one of the best young catchers in Francisco Alvarez right now. Gil's a catcher, 3 question marks. Kepler is drunk. So this Mets Twitter, baby. Have some fun, folks. And then they made one small move, but there's really no fantasy impact here. The Mets the Marlins made another move. The Marlins acquired Jorge Lopez from the Twins and sent Dylan Floro to Minnesota, 2 middling relievers. Nothing too crazy there.
Yep, agreed.
All right, let's play our weekly game, Bloomfield. I'll let you have the floor since let's talk matchups first before we talk about how much you came back and took the lead again.
Matchup wise, yeah, we'll get to my sweep in just a minute.
With an asterisk.
With an asterisk, yeah, we'll see about that. There's Coors this week, so Colorado Oakland.
Yep.
Is I think going to be a hitter's paradise, because not only is it Coors, but it is Paul Blackburn, it's JP Sears, who is pretty good, Luis Medina. For Colorado, it's Freeland, Chase Anderson, and Chris Flexen. Like, I'm looking at A's this weekend, and actually a good number of people were picking up in like NFBC leagues, like JJ Bleday, I think is a fine pickup to stream for this weekend. Guys like that. Cleveland lefties get the White Sox, and we just talked about the Giolito trade. Like the White Sox, that's another fantasy takeaway of that trade. Like stream hitters against that White Sox rotation, it's going to be really bad. The White Sox are rolling out Tuki Toussaint, Clevenger, and Michael Kopech this weekend. So Cleveland lefties, that will be fun. And I actually looked this up this week, Bubba, because the Braves get all lefties again. It has been
all righties, you mean?
Or sorry, all righties. Yes.
Yeah. The Eddie Rosario show still.
The Eddie Rosario. The Braves have not faced a left-handed starting pitcher in over 5 weeks. That is to me, that is like mind-boggling. I don't know how to look up like how rare that is.
Get Sarah Langs on that. Get Sarah Langs on it. She'll figure it out.
I may have to, put in a word over to her because that just sounds unbelievable. But I looked it up and it's true. So like, I don't know, your lefty Braves, which are probably all rostered already, but that's another great matchup for me.
All right, as mentioned previously, Bloomfield swept this past week to retake the lead. Before I let him do his victory lapping here, 2 things. I'm coming home from golfing on Friday, and I get a text message with a picture of the video of the Encarnacion Strand trying to go Apo Taco to the wall. That would have given me the win. Second,
I tagged you in that one.
Yeah. Second, I say asterisk because Nick Pivetta almost beat you. You don't have Oviedo by throwing 1 inning of relief when he was supposed to pitch on frickin' Sunday. But Alex Cora decided to pitch him 1 inning on the 8th with a 5-run lead on Saturday so they could use him on Tuesday because Brian Bayo, my boy, was away on paternity leave. So I just got it from all angles on that one. Like I still almost got you with 1 inning of work with Pivetta.
Yeah, which would have been really sad. So
I would never let you hear the end of that one.
Almost as bad as the 1 week where we both got negative.
Yes.
Actually, that one's even worse. You beat me, Brad Keller, in early May, negative 2/3 of a point to negative 1 1/3. That takes the cake.
Yeah.
But this was close. Pivetta, that's just terrible timing. Pivetta, and like it's funny. So the 1 inning Pivetta thing has been sandwiched around a 6 inning, 13 strikeout thing, which we talked about last week on the show. Came right back against the Braves, which is just as impressive. 5 innings, 5 Ks, 3 hits, 1 walk against Atlanta. So good process, bad results. I don't know what shirt you're wearing tonight, but no, you're not wearing that one.
I'm wearing my FPAS
for good reason, I guess. But just a tough break, but I'll take it. And yes, Encarnacion Strand flying out to the wall. Great American Small
From
Park.
The window to the wall. Perdomo was a great pick by you, though. I'll throw that out there. That was a great pick. Leadoff guy in Great American Small Park. Every time I looked at the box score, I was like 2 more hits. He's like, I'm like, goodness gracious. He's just all over the base past that game. So I'll give you credit where credit's due. Great pick on that one.
Thank you, sir.
Real quick, though, before I let you have some more on here, I'd like to shout out Ben Tidd for showing who the real winner is supposed to be. Like, thank you. Go check out Breaking Ben_T on Twitter. He'll show you the way we should score things going forward. We probably will next year, and then I'll get smoked. So we'll keep it the way we have it. But thank you, Ben, for having my back on that one.
Yes, we have Ben who recalculated the score. So we're doing this more match play style. You either win or not for the hitter or the pitcher for that week. And so I'm up, 14-13. Ben decided to, I don't know how much you paid him to do this, but Ben added up all the points across the whole season, and you're kind of, I think we're close on the hitters, but you're wiping me on the pitcher side. So I don't know, man. Honestly, match plays.
It's the better match play.
Keeps it tight throughout the season.
Match play needs to be done. It's just great. It's fun. We kill back and forth. It's for the round of golf in Arizona. So I'm hoping to get Ryan to pay this year since I paid last year, but we'll see. If not, I'll pay again and we'll drink plenty of noons. So either way, it'll be a good time. But what do you have this week for your picks?
I took Will Brennan. So listen, again, leaning into those Cleveland lefties against the 3 White Sox relievers. Relievers. Well, might as well be relievers.
As well be, yeah.
I don't know. Brennan's cooled a little bit lately, but I think definitely under 50% rostered in 12 teamers. I don't know. The contact's there. It doesn't walk much, but a little bit of pop, a lot of contact. I'm kind of banking on volume and some singles and doubles from him and hoping that's enough.
Yeah, no, Brennan's shown that ability. I have streamed him at times this season. We're going back to a guy that we laughed at before the show because I've taken him once and you took him once, and he's great for you, not for me. I'm going back to the Max Kepler. The Twins, they're actually swinging pretty good bats right now, to say the least. It was actually really hot in Minnesota, too, so that helped. They go to Kansas City, where it'll still be warm, and he gets to face Brady Singer, who's been better, but still it's Brady Singer, Jordan Lyles, and then Ryan Yarbrough. And Kepler will play versus lefties and can hit lefties okay. And since the All-Star break, he's hitting 342, a couple home runs, 4 doubles. He walks 5%. So I'll take my chances with Kepler. I told Ryan before the show, I'm like, every time I pick him, he does horrible. And the next week he goes off, and we looked at our picks. That's what happened. That's exactly what happened. So I'm going to cross my fingers and hope we get another big week here from Kepler hitting in the middle of that Twins lineup.
So prediction, Max Kepler gets traded this weekend because he's on the block. He's a free agent at the end of the season.
Oh, it doesn't
and
play
the Twins have plenty of bodies to fill it in. Kepler's going to get traded.
And not play. Miss the whole weekand.
And I'll win. That's my.
You're probably going to be. You'll probably be right, and it's going to sting. And now that I think about it, my pitcher we're going to talk about might get the same treatment. So just
who's your?
My pitcher this week is Steven Matz. Yeah. I like Matz much more this time around than I did the first time I picked him. The first time I picked him was because it was slim pickings. But Steven Matz is a guy I've talked about on my Fab show. I picked up in a lot of places. They stretched him back out. Like, he was horrible to start the year. Then he goes to the bullpen, and then they need bodies when Wainwright and some other guys go down. So since he's returned, Matz has made 4 starts, and he's got up to 6 innings. He's 5 or more innings in 3 or 4 starts, 1 earned run or less in 3 of those 4, and 6 or more Ks. So when he pitches very well. Faces Cubs team 2 starts ago, 5 innings, 1 run, 6 Ks. The strikeouts are there. He's, like I said, getting you 5 or 6 innings, limiting the damage. I'll take my chances versus the Cubs again this week, as long as he doesn't get traded.
Misses his start. That would be so classic. No, I like it. I wouldn't say I'm a big Matz fan, but I get it. This goes a lot better than the result, so it makes sense. I went with Brandon Pfaadt, who I'm just kind of banking that like third time's a charm at this point. I mean, we all know how bad Brandon Pfaadt has been his first 2 times through major league lineups. He looked really good in a tough spot at Cincinnati last time out, which was Pfaadt's first start since being recalled the 3rd time. I think I got that right. Yeah. 6 innings, 6 Ks, no walks, 3 earned off of 3 home runs. So like Great American Small Park did get him, but Brandon Pfaadt still pitched well. So I'm just kind of hoping that I think at some point Pfaadt's it's going to click for him in the majors. I don't know if it will be this turn. I don't know if it will be this year. But that's kind of the hedge that I'm playing here is taking. I picked up Pfaadt in my main event this week. I did not start him. I just kind of wanted to do a wait and see kind of a deal. But yeah, just kind of hedging that it's finally going to start clicking for him.
Yeah, I think it's I was looking at him and I was debating it. I picked him up in a couple leagues just like you did. Didn't start him either, but I was like, okay, the talent is there. Let's see if it clicks. Looked good. I'm with you. I think it's gonna be a very, very interesting start for Pfaadt. And if he puts this one together too, yeah, we'll roll him next week. And he probably gets shelled, and we call it a day. But that's the Brandon Pfaadt experience.
That's and the Lance Lynn experience as well.
You had to bring him up, didn't you? All right, let's talk trade. I call it trade predictions, preview, whichever you prefer. Preview is probably a better word. I should probably rename the title. If that's a good call there. We're going to talk about some players that have been kind of discussed, some of the main teams that have been discussed as sellers. And the biggest thing is not so much where they're going, but like what's the ramifications for your fantasy team? Because we can all have ideas where they're going, and that's a fun game and all, but let's be real. Who knows? A lot can change. I didn't have Giolito going to the Angels, tell you that much. I had him going to at least the Dodgers or the Orioles. Didn't have him going to the Angels. So let's talk about a few here that Ryan put together. So you put it together. I'll let you lead this if you like.
I mean,
or I'll lead it. Whatever you want.
I mean, that's the point of it is to like, and so I have David Robertson with Ottavino as the pickup on this thing. And so like, that's the perfect example of like, you could have picked up Ottavino last week for very cheap, knowing that David Robertson's probably going to get dealt. And then if that happens, Ottavino most likely will be the guy. You can make those kind of speculative plays ahead of time, save some money, and get some production. And so that's what we're trying to do here. Is like, you're right, Bubba. It doesn't really, I don't even know if it makes for good conversation to speculate on who's going to trade for which team and that sort of thing. It's more just to get you all ready for Fab this weekend to bid on guys for a buck or two that are potential fill-ins behind some of these top names that are going to get traded. So again, that Ottavino example is quintessential to this.
Because other shows we can talk about the ramifications when it's official, because then you can talk about who to pick up or who's droppable on that team. But yeah, like you're saying, you mentioned Ottavino. Let's just go right into it. We're talk hitters first. You got the Chicago Cubs, and like I know Mervis has been a topic of conversation recently, but and I'm kind of going backwards on this, but he's a perfect example of a guy we've talked about in recent weeks. Like, hey, he's in AAA, he's starting to heat up again. This is the time to probably speculate on a guy like Matt Mervis. And now with the trade deadline coming, it can make it even more so. The reason I mentioned his name was we're talking Chicago Cubs. Bellinger's been in fuego. Yan Gomes is playing well, but there's other options if they do decide to sell to see what they have in their system. And for some reason at the trade deadline, there's always a few catchers that just get dealt for depth. It never fails. And Gomes has probably been actually dealt a few times in this scenario, now that I think about it. But you got Bellinger and you got Gomes down here. You know, in reality, I've heard, let me double check before I ruin this. Never mind. You have them in the pitching department. So we'll stick to hitters here. Bellinger and Gomes are the main two you see being dealt here. So how do you break that one down?
I just think like the Bellinger trade value right now is awesome. Like the bat, like you said, the bat's going. He made a great play at first base today to bail Justin Steele out of a double play. And I believe he's on a 1-year deal. I believe Bellinger's a free agent at the end of the season. So and we kind of talked about this at the top when we were talking about Milwaukee and the NL Central. This all hinges on whether the Cubs decide to sell or not. But if Bellinger is traded, I think that opens up. I mean, Bellinger's been playing a lot of first base since he injured his knee. I think $1 or $2 bid on Matt Mervis right now makes a ton of sense. Matt Mervis was like a darling at not only at First Pitch Arizona last year, but even this season when Mervis was called up originally. Like, there was a lot of fab money spent on that guy, and so didn't work out. But as we all know with these prospects, it may take a couple times. Mervis is hitting almost 300 at AAA. Strikeout rate looks good. Like, this is the same guy that we all got excited about a few months ago. And so if Bellinger's dealt, I think Mervis gets called up and plays at least a good amount at first base or DH or what have you. So I think that's a pretty good spec play. Miguel Amaya is another one. We talked about Yan Gomes, who has been on, he's probably like a good immaculate grid guy. He's probably played on like 15 different teams. But Miguel Amaya has some prospect pedigree, would be the primary catcher, I would think, if Yan Gomes is dealt. So I don't know. Like with Amaya, I don't think you're speculating on. I think you wait and see if a trade happens, second catcher. But Mervis, I do think if you've got room, throw a buck or two at him in hopes that Bellinger is traded.
I think the Mervis call is really, really good. I like Amaya. He's a guy that earlier this year when there was injuries to Gomes and company, I was rostering in certain formats. The hit tool is actually pretty darn solid. He's got an 11% barrel rate, which I like to see from him. His hard hit rate's only like 39%. You'd hope for a little more. But he showed some pop from time to time throughout the minors, especially early on in his minor league time. And so I think he's a very intriguing play. To your Cody Bellinger point, next season he has a mutual option of $25 million. So I don't know what takes place there via trade, how that plays out. But if the new team takes it over or whatever, but he's not technically a free agent, but he could be a free agent type scenario. Basically, the team could probably trade for him, but we're not going to pick up your option. See you later. So it's an interesting deal.
I wonder how often a mutual option actually is
agreed
agreed upon mutually. Like you either had a great season and your value is higher than $25 million, or you tanked and it wasn't. And I don't see how a player and a team could both agree on the same thing, but
agreed.
I don't know. Whatever.
We'll see how that plays out. Let's talk St. Louis Cardinals. Paul DeJong was even out of Thursday's lineup. So there's already speculation that, hey, he's getting shopped around and might be dealt as early as Thursday. As of recording here, that has not happened yet. He's heavily rumored. Tyler O'Neill, now they're saying sticking with the team. Nolan Arenado's told everybody he's waiving his no trade clause and he wants to go back to the Dodgers, and the Cardinals and the Dodgers are in conversation. That's bonkers to me. But wouldn't shock me if it happened just because it's the Dodgers. But again, like I mentioned, the luxury tax, that would put them over the luxury tax. So that's something to monitor. They'd actually have to send one of their pricier players back, which would make the whole domino effect quite interesting there. For other hitters with St. Louis, there was a bunch of guys rumored at one point. They've kind of been getting quieted, I guess is the best way to put it. The only other one I'll mention here that I've heard rumors of this past week, he's on the IL, is Tommy Edman. He's another guy that a lot of discussion has been with him just because of how crowded the team is right now, and he would fit in on a lot of teams looking for like a utility player. So Edman's another guy, even though he's on the IL, he could get dealt as well. So what do you got here?
Yeah, first off, the Arenado thing, it doesn't make sense for the Cardinals to do that. Like, they need him next year, following year. This isn't a team that I don't think goes full rebuild. But I do think like DeYoung, Edman, I think I could absolutely see that happening as likely. And to me, Mason Wynn, who is a team's, I think, second ranked prospect on Fangraphs. Mason Wynn at AAA is hitting 285, has 14 homers, 16 steals, a 16% K rate. He's hit a ball 110 miles an hour. There's a lot of promise there. So, like, I think either way, if Edman or DeYoung are dealt, I think Wynn steps in and gets that cup of coffee at shortstop the rest of the way. And so, like, similar to Matt Mervis, if you have a hole at middle infield, you've got a spot to stash someone. I think a buck or two on Mason Wynn will make a ton of sense. I think if DeYoung and or Edman are dealt, I think St. Louis gives him the call.
I think it's a great call. I think it really is, because when you look at their depth chart, they don't have a lot else at shortstop right now, which is pretty crazy to think about. So that would fill in perfectly. And yeah, Arenado, please don't get traded. Please, God.
No, that would be. He's from California, isn't he?
Oh, from LA. He's already been quoted saying, "I will waive my no trade to go to the Dodgers. I grew up and I've always wanted to be a Dodgers player." Like, he's saying everything right now. That does not make me warm and fuzzy. So yeah. And he owns the Giants in his career. So it would just be full circle terror. All right, let's go to the New York Mets. They have a surplus of players. We actually talked about some of this last week, and it has not changed. You got Mark Kahn in the outfield. You got Tommy Pham, who's kind of cooling down because he's always banged up. They called up Mark Vientos, who still can't find regular playing time. Their bench isn't great, but they're full fire selling. So a Kana or a Tommy Pham makes sense. Honestly, Dan Vogelbach, if anybody wants to purchase, would be worth. Hey, I'm just saying, if a team was interested, he'd be there too. But I like your Pham and Kana calls. So what do you have on that one?
I mean, we're already seeing with the trade tonight, the Mets are going to scrap this. So, like, you don't trade David Robertson and not. I don't know. So I think Pham. I think they try and get what they can out of Pham and or Mark Canha. If that's the case, there's going to be and Starling Marte, who we probably could have talked about in the news. Like, it doesn't sound good at all.
Yeah.
What's happening with Starling Marte, who is on the IL with migraines that are still happening, and there's a conflict. Like, he's having his partner's having a kid like imminently, and they don't want to do more testing until kid comes. Like, So like Starling Marte is out for a while. The Mets need to field an outfield. And I think if you want to throw a buck or two on Ronnie Mauricio, I know we're kind of prospect hunting here. Mauricio is a shortstop, but obviously he's blocked by Lindor, who's not going anywhere. But Mauricio can play some corner outfield. Very highly ranked prospect on HQ, hitting almost 300, 16 homers, 15 steals. So again, it's like kind of that all around, similar like Mason Wynn, like 5 category potential, which is super important in roto leagues. So I wouldn't be against throwing a buck or two on Mauricio in Fab this weekend in leagues where obviously in keepers he's owned already, but in redrafts, if it doesn't work out, just dump him next week. But I think the Mets are going to be clearing house in their outfield, and then you tack on the Marte injury, migraines, whatever you want to call it. They need bodies out there.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to mention the Marte thing is getting worse and worse. So you look at their depth chart; they have nobody. DJ Stewart, I found out recently, is there, former Oriole legend.
Danny Mendick. God.
Yeah, it's brutal in that outfield. So you might be able to stream starting pitchers against the Mets pretty soon.
Oh,
But
Tim LaCastro's on the Mets?
Yeah, it's brutal.
Did not know that.
It's brutal. So it'll be interesting to see. I'd imagine they try to, well, they need prospects, but I'd say maybe they try to get some kind of outfielder with the pulse to return in one of these deals. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, Kana and Pham can make a big impact somewhere else, and we'll see how that one pans out. You got the Washington Nationals. We hinted at earlier, Heimer Candelario, that was already rumored to go to the Angels. That's the only rumor I've seen for him is go to the Angels. Makes a ton of sense, with Rendon's injuries and whatnot. They need a consistent third base play there. And I'd love it personally for fantasy purposes if the Candyman went to Anaheim. But for me, it's like on the active roster, it's Michael Chavis or Vargas, which doesn't make you feel great. I like who you have here, though. So who'd you write down?
Yeah, there's also like the ghost of Carter Kieboom lurking in the minors, but I think we've seen that. This is more for the I guess the NL only contingent of our listenership, which I'm sure is hundreds and thousands of folks. But Jake Alou, I think Jake Alou, he was actually a popular draft champions 40th, 50 round guy. I could see the Nationals giving Jake Alou a shot at third base because I think they almost have to trade the Candyman, Jeimer Candelario. I just don't know where, but again, not really concerned about where he goes. It's who fills in. And so I think just super deep leagues, you take a stab at someone at Alou if you need someone at third base. What has the minor league? I think Alou's been up. Yeah, he's got 15 plate appearances. So he's been up before, so they'll be willing to call him back up, hitting 297 at AAA, 16 steals, great K rate. So I don't know. I mean, not a difference maker like Mauricio or Wynn potentially this year, but again, if you need a body in a deep league, I think Jake Alou gets a shot.
Yep. I'm with you on that. Jake Alou is highly talked about, like you said, in DC season. A couple of starting pitchers to discuss here. Lorenzen's price tag went down a bit after getting shelled by the Angels on Thursday, but still, Michael Lorenzen will get moved. He should get moved. The Tigers are doing this right, so that's a great call. I'll let you have the floor with yours. I'll mention another guy after you do here, but who do you like to look into if Lorenzen gets dealt?
I mean, just in general, trying to wade through the muck of 6 starters and backup starters is tough right now. But Spencer Turnbull, we've talked about a couple times on the show, has a trace of skill, is hurt, but is on a rehab assignment. Maybe gets a shot with Detroit when Lorenzen is traded. But I don't know. That's who I came up with. I don't know who you got.
Alex Faedo. Through 6 shutouts in his return start, then got sent back to AAA. Strikeouts haven't been there consistently enough when he's had his chance in the bigs, but there's some upside to giving him a shot here for the next couple of months to really see what you have with the kid. So I like a chance on that. For fantasy, you probably just deeper league only, or even AL only, as you were mentioning earlier. But Alex is a guy that I'd keep an eye on in this scenario for sure. Chicago Cubs, we're back to the Cubs because they're selling everybody. What are your thoughts if they deal Stroman? I also think they could deal Kyle Hendricks as well. Could be a man on the move. So what do you got on the Chicago Cubs situation?
I feel like unless there's some crazy trade that we don't know about, the kind of out of the blue trade, which can always happen. I feel like the Cubs are integral to the interestingness, if that's a word, of this trade deadline, what they decide to do. You've got Hayden Wesneski kind of lurking in AAA. He's got a 1.35 ERA at AAA. Wesneski was pretty popular, spec sleeper guy entering the season. 35% strikeout rate at AAA. It obviously has not worked out for Wesneski in the majors this year, but I think the Cubs give him a shot if they decide to trade Marcus Stroman. And then there's also, I don't know too much about him, but Ben Brown is in AAA, has 74 strikeouts in 50 innings, which is pretty freaking wild. Yeah. Speaking of wild, he is very wild too. So the walk rate is pretty bad. So Ben Brown is a name that might get a look in August or September if the Cubs decide to clear out. So it wouldn't I like Wesneski the best at really any of these pitchers, but I'm not really specking on these guys in Fab this weekend unless really deep league and you're really desperate for pitching.
Yeah, the other pitcher you would likely see at some time in September be Caleb Killian. He made one spot start, 7 runs and 3 1/3. But in the minors, it's a 4.15 ERA, 61 Ks and 82 innings pitched. Just not great by any means, but he's been a guy that's worked his way through the system, made high hopes for. So if you're giving things up, these are the pitchers. This is the time of year you see what you have for a couple starts. Killian would be a dude that might get some run again that I'm not looking to run and go pick up, but he could be another guy. I think Wesneski's the one you want. I'm with you. But Brown, Killian, those would be the kind of names I'd be looking at there if Stroman and or Hendricks get dealt and open up a spot in that rotation. One team that's not here, but I'll just throw it out here for fun. We don't have to go deep dive into this, just to kind of give the listener something to think about. With the Mets fire sales, Bloomfield, Verlander has been rumored to be a potential trade candidate. Like the Giants are in connections with Verlander and a few other teams. In all reality, Scherzer could be a guy if they really want to get wild, because Scherzer is he's got 2 years on his deal. They could actually try to get something serious back for him. I don't think Scherzer goes. Just wanted to bring up his name. Verlander on the flip side, though, he is a name that's very heavily rumored to get shopped around. Yeah, guys like Quintana, like they have a lot of moving parts in this rotation. They don't have they don't have a lot of options in the minors is the problem. Like Joey Lucchesi, Tyler McGill, these are guys we've seen before. So I just wanted to throw that out there, because if the Mets are selling, one or a few of these starters could go as well.
Yeah, the moving parts look like the toys in my kid's playroom, like all mangled and destroyed.
I mentioned 2 pitchers that are over 40 years old, so let's just put it that way.
Would you? Who would you? If you're a team, are you contracts and that sort of thing aside, Verlander, Scherzer, the rest of the way? Who would you want there?
I think I want Scherzer, even though I like what I've seen improvements from Verlander in his recent starts. Verlander is improving, but it's not dominating. He's pitching, he's not dominating.
Yeah, Verlander does have a 1.46 ERA, 1.05 WHIP over his last 6 starts. The skills are just not there. Like the walk rate's really bad. The strikeouts aren't there. The whiffs aren't there. I don't know.
He's pitching right now, which doesn't do much. He scares me. Where Scherzer, at least he has his blow up starts. When he's not blowing up, he's still dominating people, and that's what I'm looking for with Scherzer. So that's where I go. I mentioned Lucchesi and Tyler McGill. Those would be the guys to target if we want to go down that route. But I just wanted to bring that up, as the Mets could go full crazy and just get rid of everybody.
If you pick up Tyler McGill, blame Bubba, not me. I'm kidding.
No, it's totally fine. It's fair. There's a lot of other guys like Jordan Montgomery's rumored to get Jack Flaherty as well. Even Steven Matz technically, but Flaherty and Montgomery are 2 of the popular names from the Cardinals.
Yeah, I thought about the Cardinals. The thing with the Cardinals is, like, from a fantasy standpoint, it's like White Sox out there. You don't want Liberatore is like the only name, and you don't want to be, you don't want to go there.
All right, let's go reliever hunting here. And this is when we hope happens. Kansas City Royals and Barlow. He should be dealt. They already got rid of Aroldis Chapman, who's been great, and he's valuable in almost all formats, even though he's not the main closer. But when Barlow potentially leaves town, it finally opens the door, Ryan, to a guy that I know you've talked about and others have that should get some time closing, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know if this, I don't know if any of this stuff will happen, but like I could see, I think Barlow gets traded. I could see Kansas City. So the guy I'm talking about is Carlos Hernandez. I'm not like certain Hernandez would instantly be the closer if Scott Barlow is traded. Hernandez has recently pitched in like the 6th and 7th innings. That said, like the Kansas City bullpen is freaking terrible, and I don't know who else they would even want to close. So like if I'm Kansas City, I probably at least just see what I have in Carlos Hernandez in a 9th inning role and go from there. Hernandez, like transition starter, he's throwing gas this year, 99 mile an hour fastball velocity. As a starter, I think it was like 96, 97. So still pretty fast, but he's ramped it up even more, missing a ton of bats. Walk rate's fine. Like the skills look really good for Carlos Hernandez. So I am actually already have speculated last week in a couple fab leagues and grabbed Carlos Hernandez. And if it doesn't work out, I will dump him next Sunday, not this one, the following.
You had the Mets down here, like you mentioned. Robertson's already been dealt, so that solves that one. Adam Ottavino, everybody, have fun with that. Yep. Chicago White Sox, they are full blown. Like Didn't even talk about Lance Lynn because, like you said, there's nothing to bring up. Like there's no one to roster when it comes to these teams that are selling everybody. But they could sell the back end of that bullpen, which is very interesting because Graveman will have some value for somebody along the line. Joe Kelly's rumored to be going. Aaron Bummer, like literally, they've offered almost anybody with a pulse to any team that needs relief.
In Middleton,
yeah, like they've offered them all. So who are you looking to here, assuming they don't get traded as well?
I mean, a couple of things have to happen. Like I think multiple of those arms have to get traded. But like Gregory Santos is the best arm, I think, in that bullpen right now. 2.59 ERA, 125 WHIP, so he's gotten a little bit lucky there. But 48 strikeouts to 11 walks in 49 innings for Santos. He's just 23. Like, I think this is again a name that if the White Sox are clearing out, and some of this hinges on Liam Hendricks, health wise.
That's true because they're not trading him. Just be clear with that, people. He ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, I would be shocked if that happened. So like there would have to be trades of the other relievers, your Middleton, Graveman types, and Hendricks is still hurt, and the White Sox decide to even do this. But Gregory Santos has closer-worthy skills, and again, if you're desperate for saves, buck or two on Gregory Santos, I think makes a lot of sense given the skills and given the lack of alternatives on the south side.
I agree completely. St. Louis Cardinals, Jordan Hicks has been heavily rumored. Like then the latest report was they're trying to make an extension with him. That didn't work. So he should be getting dealt most likely. I love Giovany Gallegos. I'll let you have the floor on why you might like Gallegos as well.
I mean, it's just like last man standing.
Well, what I'll say is Chris Stratton got a save the other day, which is pretty funny.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't know. The Cardinals have been doing this for years. Gallegos was their closer for like a little bit, but the last few years, like they have been very hesitant to put Gallegos in the 9th inning role. So I don't know. But like Ryan Helsley's hurt. He's on the 60-day IL. So we can't even come back until mid-August. And if Hicks is gone, like, I mean, Gallegos should be the closer in that standpoint, but will he be? I don't know. But again, I think he's worth a shot to see what happens. I mean, he could very well get traded as well. So like, who knows? But I think that's the name that would just stand out. Like, what is he? He's got a 3.86 ERA this year. Not that great, but missing a ton of bats, 17% swing strike rate, 110 WHIP. Pretty much the same guy that's been pretty elite for over the last few seasons. So we'll see.
Yep. Can't argue that as all. I'm going to bring up Josh Hader. That's been heavily rumored of late, getting dealt for San Diego. So you got guys like Robert Suarez, who has been actually pretty darn effective since he's returned. Nick Martinez has been interesting. Steven Wilson's got great numbers. If you want to like believe in the number situation, he's looked really good. I think it's Robert Suarez's job first, and that'd be the guy. Like we're talking about specking on guys. We mentioned a bunch of prospects and other things. We're kind of like, well, maybe this week. I would spec on Robert Suarez this week, and that's my 2 cents. If you need saves, I would spec on Robert Suarez. What do you like in the back end of that San Diego situation?
No, that makes sense. That's a good ad. I think it would be Suarez. I can't see them going to Martinez. He's kind of like a swingman type of guy. So yeah, it makes. I mean, Suarez. The thing with Suarez, he's only pitched 3 innings all year. He was hurt.
Yeah, he just came
back.
Like,
yeah, maybe they kind of baby him and I don't know, do something else in the 9th. But you don't. From a fantasy standpoint, you don't want any of that something else. So it makes sense to spec on Suarez. To kind of wrap this up, Bubba, like what would you – so I think on the hitting side, like I think Matt Mervis is a great spec. Mason Wynn, Mauricio are great specs. Jake Alou, maybe. Starting pitcher-wise, like Hayden Wesneski, maybe. Outside of that, I'm not sure if you're speculating in Fab. How would you rank the relievers that we just talked about? Suarez, Gallegos, Santos, and Carlos Hernandez.
I go Gallegos, Suarez, Hernandez, Santos. That is how I would rate them. I guess because most of these teams stink anyways. So like, how many saves chances do you have? And True. I like the skills of Suarez a lot. So, but Gallegos is like, I have Gallegos rostered in like DCs and stuff all year. I've been using them almost weekly in certain formats. So I'm a Gallegos guy through and through. So I'd be my number 1. Then Suarez, Hernandez, Santos.
I'd go Hernandez, Gallegos, Suarez, Santos. And actually like Santos a lot, but a lot of things have to happen.
That White Sox team might win 10 games if they treat
And
everything we
yes,
think of.
we might be like
It's
pouring
pretty
a
bad.
microscope over like 4 saves.
Yeah, it's
So.
that's the only problem with some of these teams. Like it's like the Padres, if they still deal Hader, okay, there's hope. But they're rumored to be dealing Blake Snell. Maybe Seth Lugo goes if they start trading. Like I don't know how. I get it. I get the philosophy behind it. I'd be shocked. But
it's not.
Say they do. They start doing stuff like that. Now it's really like, okay, how many wins do we physically see the Padres getting? Like, so it turns into like, I guess the moral of the story is don't break the bank. These are spec situations. But if you are needing saves, like that's to me what this trade line is the big. Like we didn't even talk about because the Pirates don't win a ton, but Bednar got to get traded, man. Like he should have been traded last year. I guess the perfect spot, but there's really no one in Pittsburgh worth rostering, like because Pittsburgh just won't save a ton of games. But like we talk about these starting pitchers, we talk about hitters, like you mentioned. Most of it's prospects. Most of it's like, fourth and fifth outfielders that might finally get a chance. So are they really worth the fantasy push? That kind of deal. Maybe more like put them on your watch list scenario. Closers to me are the ones that are going to have the biggest impact because it goes back to what we've talked about before is we're not getting a lot of closer turnover this year compared to years past. This is our turnover time. Like the fact we mentioned Ottavino. Ottavino's at the top. We didn't even mention him. He's at the top of the list.
Oh yeah, that's true. We should have.
Yeah,
yes,
he's at the top of. I'll speak for Ryan. He's at the top of both our lists. We need
leaps and bounds. Leaps and bounds at the top.
But that's my point. Like we're finally getting a chance here. Like you got Ottavino. Robertson's probably not available. Do you drop AJ Puck now?
I
do.
Yeah.
In 15s, maybe you hold, but I think you drop them everywhere personally. I think unless you're NL only. But
yep.
But that's kind of where we're going. I think relievers for this deadline, unless we get some crazy stuff, because like Giolito gets traded. We don't care about Clevenger coming back on rotation for the White Sox. It doesn't impact, Silseth's, people were specking on Silseth, but that's not breaking the bank. Oh, we just drop him. Who cares? That has no impact really in the grand scheme of fantasy, where these relievers are where it's going to be. This is where it's at type thing. And I'm really curious to see where this goes because, yeah, most of these bad teams, they don't have backup options that are worth the darn. That's why they're bad teams. Let's put it that way. Let's do some listener questions before we head on out of here, and hopefully there's a lot more trades to talk about and have some fun with next week when we break this all down. But let's talk. We got a couple listener questions. Gerald Points asks, he's got another two-parter for us here. Would you trade Mark? This is a keeper league. Mark Vientos, who the Mets they're going to have to play him if they make some trades. He could play the outfield for all we know. I'm assuming this is Ranger Suarez. It just says R Suarez. And you get him this is for 2023 through 2025. If it's Ranger Suarez, I want Mark Vientos.
Agreed. I don't know. I mean, it could be Robert Suarez, I guess.
I still want Mark Vientos.
Still want Mark Vientos either way.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And like, I don't know. It's so hard to pitcher hitter. Like so much depends on your league. That's the obvious cop out, but Vientos in a keeper. Yeah. That's pretty easy.
And then I hate to do this to you, Gerald, but we will cover this for you later. He says, what are some buy low guys for next year? Give us like another month and we'll get you going because we'll start doing our early DC probably sometime in mid-August or so. Then we'll have a better idea for you, at least unless you have something you want to throw out right now. I haven't even done any digging on that right
now. I have seen a couple 2024 rankings, tweets, and things out there already, which is fun to talk about, but I have not really looked at it much at all. If I'm going to throw just a couple names out there, and I'm just looking at the boards from our kind of midseason ranks, I would go, maybe I'm cheating a little bit because it's injury. I think Jazz Chisholm is a great buy low.
That's fair.
I think Michael Harris as well.
Will Harris be a buy low? He's actually played pretty well the second half. I think people buy back in personally.
That's true. That's why it's hard to, who knows what their prices will be and that sort of thing, but I don't know.
Yeah. Like I hate to do it, but it's like I'm still so focused on competing in certain leagues. I haven't really dug into 2024 just yet. So
how about Rowdy? Come on, we can agree on Rowdy.
I think we know I'll always buy low on Rowdy. That could be a detriment to me. Like that could be because he keeps going lower, and like I'm gonna like the talent's there. It's gonna happen type thing, and I want to be there for that ride. But those are the biasy things we talk about that we need to figure out one of these days not to, and fix. But if he's healthy again come next year, I'll be back in. There's no questioning that at all. So Rowdy's a great call on that one. I think the tough ones for this question would be a lot of these pitchers that have struggled this year, because it'll turn into, will they have learned how to pitch with the pitch clock next year after a full season? Was that the issue? Were the balls the issue? Where there's so many things every year with pitching. That's the tough one. The discounted pitching will be the fun one to dig into.
Oh yeah.
Next on the list here. Wait a minute. All right. We have CJ Baseball as a two-parter for us. Do you think Grayson is on an innings cap second half and potentially move to the pen for the Orioles to invest in him this year? I think he will be eventually. I haven't. Unless you have it up already. I know they were talking about it even in the preseason, having him on an innings cap. I don't remember what the number is now, but between AAA and the bigs, he's already thrown close to 100 innings, and last year he threw about 75. So I think you might get about 30 more innings out of him, maybe.
I hope not. Like, I don't know. Maybe this is a soapbox rant, whatever. Like, how many times is Baltimore gonna? And maybe that's the wrong question to ask. Like, Baltimore set up well, but like, you need to go for it if you're in these positions. Like, Baltimore can win the AL East and probably is the favorite to win the AL East. I think they need to push Grayson Rodriguez out there as much as they can and go for it while they're in this position, especially with pitching prospects. You never know when you're going to have these guys. Like, it could be next year and Grayson Rodriguez blows out his arm. You obviously never want to see that. That's why I disagree with what the Marlins did with Yuri Perez. Same kind of situation.
Well, it's like, okay, sorry to interrupt you. They're not limited. They shut him down now. He's pitching his regular starts. What are we doing in Double A?
Yeah, I know.
What are we doing?
It makes no sense.
Okay, sorry. That's just unreal.
So I don't think the Orioles should limit Grayson Rodriguez, and I don't think they will. I think there's a lot of pressure on the Orioles to put their chips in this year with the squad that they have, especially on the pitching side. They're a little bit lacking. If Grayson Rodriguez can turn the corner a little bit, I think they keep rolling with him, man.
We shall see. He says, in a 12-team AL Roto redraft, Jordan or McClanahan? Jordan for McClanahan, is that fair? AL only league.
I mean, so the question is, and actually, I don't know if you did this trade, but
I have not done my trade yet. No.
Okay, so you have not.
No, that stays on the cutting room floor for now. Yes.
So your trade is not to like blow it up, but it's an elite pitcher for an elite hitter, and it's just so much like, where are you in the standings and categories? And I know that's like a simple cop out answer, but like, I can't, like, in a vacuum, I'd much rather have Yordan Alvarez and Shane McClanahan. But which 100%. Which helps your team more, especially in a redraft? Like, you're just looking at the standings. How many wins do you think McClanahan can get? How many strikeouts do you think he can get? And how much does that move you up the standings? The flip side, if you are trading away Yordan Alvarez, what does that OBP look like? That batting average, the counting stats? Like, you have to make all those kind of calculations, and it's all based on your standings at this point.
Yeah, like, to Ryan's point, the trade that I might be doing, I'd be receiving an elite starting pitcher, one of the best, some would say, in all of baseball, because I need strikeouts, ratios, and wins, where I am doing very well in hitting categories. So I'll be sending one of the best 5 category players that'll be a first-round pick next year. These are 2 first-round picks next year, is what it comes down to, that we'll be dealing because of our team needs. That's going back to this Jordan and McClanahan thing. If you need pitching and you're getting McClanahan, it makes total sense, or vice versa. So 100% with Ryan on that one. And then his last question, thoughts on Kerry Carpenter the rest of the season. This is one primarily for Bubba. Not sure why it's just me, but if you need power, he's very streamable. I'll say that much. I don't know if I can start him every single game, but I do like the hit tool from Kerry Carpenter. I think that's fair.
Virginia Tech guy.
Yep, that's your boy.
I mean, is he playing against lefties? Is it a strict?
He was. He was playing against lefties.
Because they got Riley Green back. They got Padu back. Carpenter. Yeah, he's been DHing right field and played today against a lefty. So played both games at the doubleheader. So
yep. I think he's very, very serviceable. He's got some good pop. Doesn't steal it all though, so don't look into that. But I do like the skills that he brings to the table. He reminds me a bit of like I don't know if I want to go this far, but an Anthony Santander type, where he's going to get you okay average, some power, no steals. I think there's a lot of similarities there, but so maybe not full time, but he's going to be serviceable for sure.
I like that comp.
Yep. Grant Johnson has a question for us here. Is there a relief pitcher widely available now that post-trade deadline you like to be a favorite for saves? We already discussed that for you. Go get Ottavino. Which of these 3 offensive players on the IL currently will have the biggest impact for their teams once they return? Thairo Estrada, Tommy Edman, or Rowdy Tellez? He says now Carlos Santana to the Brewers has hurt Tellez's playing time even when he returns. So it goes down to who do you like better, Thairo Estrada or Tommy Edman once they return from the IL?
I'll go Estrada.
It's Thairo.
Who could be back? You would know.
Real soon. I tweeted it out. Soon. Yeah, I tweeted it out. I think it was Risotto, a guy that I follow on Twitter that does a lot of beat reporting for the Giants. He was there early, and Thairo was out there taking ground balls and running bases. So there's still no timetable for his return, but they're saying 4 to 6 weeks. I think he's around getting close to the 4-week mark. So. Which has flown by, honestly. He's at least 3 weeks, if not 4. So it's flown by with Thairo, and they need him badly. So Casey Schmidt just ain't it, folks. So I have Thairo making the biggest impact in a big way.
And Edman, it looks like he's on rehab assignment, should be back sometime next week. So both these guys coming back, which is good to see.
Both could be back very, very soon. That'll do it, Bloomfield. Another episode in the books. Any final thoughts as there'll probably be 3 trades that take place the next hour after we hit stop?
Yeah, overnight. No, it's going to be – I always love the trade deadline. It's usually madness. It usually lives up to the hype. I hope that's the case this year. There's a whole host of shows. Bubba, you're going to be going on Joe Arico's show, it sounds like, on trade deadline day.
I'll be on at 5 p.m. Eastern with Mike Curlin and Eric Cross.
There we go. So tune in for Curlin and and Cross too. But when's the actual deadline? Like what time?
It's I believe I'll look it up while you talk. I don't want to speak out of turn. I think it's usually
during your show.
Yes, yes, it will be. It's usually I think 4 p.m. Eastern. I believe is what it is.
Yeah.
Time is the MLB trade deadline. There we go. I know it's 6 p.m. Eastern, so it'll happen right after we get off the air. The deadline will be over. So. Tuesday, August 1st, 6 p.m. Eastern.
Awesome. Yeah, it'll be fun. I always like trade deadline. I hope there's some fireworks. Well, obviously no Shohei, but something will happen.
I hope we see the White Sox burn it to the ground. The Mets follow. I hope we see the Padres trade Hader and Snell because that'll be an electric factory.
Yeah.
Really curious to see what the Cardinals do. Because the way they've run their team this entire year, no one can tell me what they know they're going to do because they just can't figure anything out. So there's a lot of moving. Like, hey, Dylan Jerry, he's been quiet. Like, we know he's going to get in on the action. He's not going to sit back this whole time and do nothing. So it's going to get interesting because this is what's happened for the last couple of years since they extended the extra wild card spot. There's so many teams within striking range. That's why the Angels stayed in it because they're quote unquote within striking range. So it's going to make it fun. Looking forward to it. We'll talk about it next week, of course, and much, much more as we head to the home stretch, 2 months of the season coming up. It's really crazy. It's right around the corner. And we got FPAS coming up. Again, if you have any questions about FPAS in general, about potentially golfing on FPAS, anything along those lines, hit Ryan or myself up. We'll help you with that. You will not regret the fun you will have in Arizona for a few days. But make sure you check out Ryan on X at RyanBHQ, the podcast at Bubba Bloom Pod. I am at BD Antrick. This is Bubba and the Bloom, episode 66. Catch y'all next time.